remains unresolved after the draft. And that, of course, is the future of Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers' quarterback depth chart includes Mason Rudolph, Skylar Thompson, and sixth-round pick Will Howard. The Steelers remain interested in signing the 41-year-old quarterback. So, Peter Schrager, I have had people suggesting to me that the Steelers must know something. They must have some agreement with Rodgers that he's coming, even though that has not been made public. Is that true?
I do not believe that's the case. I don't believe they have an agreement in place. I believe if they had that in place, that would get out and that would be known. What I do think is the selection of a quarterback with the 21st overall pick would have potentially derailed the plan to get Rodgers. I don't think Aaron Rodgers was looking to go there and mentor a young quarterback. I think he's looking to go there to be the quarterback. Truth of the matter is, both the Giants and the Steelers were told straight up by Rodgers, I need time. The Giants, they said, we don't have time. They pivoted. They made their moves. Steelers said, we'll wait for you, and that's where they're at right now.
Tim Hasselbeck, you said an interesting thing to me before the show and then on the air as well. He's 40 years old. He's out there throwing routes to DK Metcalf at UCLA. What does that tell you?
It tells me that he's still planning on playing. Like, you don't do this at 40 years old if you're done with football. Like, you get on an elliptical machine and you do the, the executive
spin
workout.
class.
Like, it's totally different. Like, you don't put cleats on when you're done playing. Neek, how many times you run with cleats on since you retired? Probably zero. Like,
Not never.
You don't do it. Yeah, like you don't do it. And so, like, I think it's a signal that he wants to play. Like, I think it's more than a signal. I think it's a really strong signal. And I would just say this, like, and I agree with Peter, and I'm not reporting anything. But, like, I do think when Rodgers goes and visits the Steelers and he says, look, I'm leaning towards playing. I need some time, but I'm leaning towards playing. Well, I'm not going to come to you guys if you end up drafting a quarterback in the first or second round. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not up for that. But if you don't and you need a starting quarterback, yeah, like, I could do that. To me, I think a conversation like that had to have taken place for the Steelers to be sitting here after the draft, going into the season with Mason Rudolph and then a sixth-round pick as their backup. Like, I don't think they would do that without some type of, confidence that Rodgers would play for them.
Dominique.
Yeah, I think that Aaron Rodgers is obviously an incredibly talented quarterback, and he is likely to come back and play given what we just heard from Tim. However, they were 10-7 last year and lost in the first round of the playoffs. I'm not sure that Aaron Rodgers is going to make them much better or take them much further. So while I understand waiting for Aaron Rodgers makes sense given their quarterback situation, they still need a long-term answer, and I surely respect the way that the Steelers kind of treat every position and every player the same. They're very old school in that nature, but it's going to cost them at some point, or not at some point. It's kind of cost them up until this point, all the way back to when they traded for Minka rather than hold on to that pick and try to draft somebody to replace him. They're still in this situation where Mike Tomlin and that team overachieves, but no one has realistic Super Bowl expectations for them.
Quick final word.
Quick final word is that, Justin Fields was there to be re-signed. He had shown signs. They opted not to. Russell Wilson and the Steelers, that did not go well towards the end. I'm told that was never a possibility. Now they're in this situation, but the biggest winner of the entire offseason. He gets maybe the brightest offensive mind in all of football in Ben Johnson as his head coach. New center guard combo. And then in the draft, they go get Loveland, who could separate like he's a wide receiver, and then lose.
The biggest loser of this offseason, in your mind, is who?
Yeah, I'd say Kirk Cousins, because particularly coming out of the draft, we were expecting there to be one team at least that was in desperate need of a quarterback, and Kirk would be able to control his destiny, but it doesn't seem to be the case, and he's going to continue to wait until there's an injury or something like that. But then I looked at his contract number. He's got 2 years and $100 million still on his contract, so maybe he's the biggest winner. Man got $100 million and he don't got to work. Congratulations, Kirk Cousins. You just went from loser to winner in my book.
Fair enough. Okay. And then Tim Hasselbeck, I'm going to ask you to fill in a blank for me here. The Steelers gambling, it seems, everything on Aaron Rodgers is what?
It's risky, Greeny. I mean, look, the reality is, look, they're hoping that Aaron Rodgers is going to choose them back because they waited till the sixth round to draft a quarterback. They had opportunities, to draft prospects that probably seem more ready than Will Howard. Mason Rudolph, I can't imagine is the plan to go into the opener as a starter. So, I think it's risky, and that might even be a mild way of putting it.
So, Peter, help me. Yeah. I mean, there has to be. The Steelers are too good an organization to have everything as up in the air as it feels like right now. What is going on there?
Steelers are a good organization, but I don't think there is some handshake deal with Rodgers. I honestly believe Rodgers, and from what I'm told, talked to the Giants and the Steelers, and they looked at the Giants and said, hey, look, I have no timetable. I've got things going on in my personal life. If you have to move on, I totally get it. They did. They signed Jameis. They signed Russell. They got drafted a quarterback. He said the same exact stuff with the Steelers after working out with DK Metcalf, after going there and meeting with Tomlin and Arthur Smith. And they said, okay, we'll wait. They've put themselves in a corner here, but it is still only the end of April. And as I look at Rodgers throwing to Metcalf, I can't think that was all for naught. I can't think that was just, hey, of all the players, let me just throw to Metcalf this weekend in L.A. Right. They don't know if he's coming back yet. This might end up being like Ed Werder down in Hattiesburg waiting on Favre's ranch. I remember that. Yeah. I was there for all of it. Yeah. But I do believe they're holding out hope. And the exit strategy you mentioned, and Dominique did it well, like Kirk Cousins, I'm sure there could be a deal to be had with Kirk Cousins if it ends up going that way.
Let's go back to Rodgers, though, Tim. Of all the things I saw in our notes last night, what you said about him I thought was my single favorite thing.
Look, the reality is, and Pete referenced Favre. Look, when Favre would throw in the offseason at 40 years old, you knew he was playing. When he stopped, he was done. Like 40-year-old quarterbacks don't throw in the offseason if they're not planning on playing football. It's just the reality of it. Look, I'm not the caliber of players we're talking about, but the same thing happened to me. You know why? Like, it hurts. Like, you don't do it anymore. Like, there aren't guys like Tom Brady. Like, you go like he's not throwing to guys right now. Like, when you're done, you're done. You don't throw in March, April, May if you're done playing football. Like, you don't do it anymore. And so I think the idea that, the fact that Rodgers did it, I think is a massive signal to what his plans are. You don't put cleats on. You don't drop back and throw if you're not planning on playing football at 40 plus years old.
Nate.
Yeah, I think we're so focused on will he or won't he, we haven't really talked much about how good will he be when he comes back. So it's funny to think of this as like the end-all be-all, and this is going to solve all the problems for the Steelers. We're assuming that he's going to come back and be some version of his all-pro self. That's not what we saw most recently from Aaron Rodgers. So they're still in a bad spot, even if they get Aaron Rodgers back. There's no guarantee that this team is going to be much better than they were last year.
Did you nod along at the Kirk? You said the Kirk Cousins thing. Like, is that? Yeah. I keep thinking.
Look. You look at the connections here. Raheem Morris and Mike Tomlin are best of pals. Arthur Smith was in Atlanta for years. It's an easy one. It's not in the division. It's not in the conference. If Kirk Cousins is going to make it, the Steelers could say, "We'll pay all of that stuff. Or at least you take some of it, and we'll get him off your hands."
They have a break glass option in this somewhere. I would think so as well. All right, we are rolling along on a jam-packed Tuesday.
Chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay mình sẽ tiếp tục hướng dẫn các bạn làm vòng, và hôm nay của mình sẽ có tiêu đề là phông nền. Mọi người, hôm nay vòng của mình sẽ có tiêu đề là taxi.
Ở trong đây chị thấy cứ lại để chết rồi mà anh đã từng chua đâu mắm chua với mặn ôi nó măng không? Nó măng ra đi. Chị bộ áo của nó măng lại trên kia. Đây, ở đây. Cười anh ơi, lớp kép hiệp 2 đi. Hiệp 2. này. Từ sáng tôi anh đã ăn gì đâu. Mà một miếng bánh mì lúc sáng.
Ăn ít thôi cho nó quen. Ăn nhiều cho nó giãn cái dạ dày ra.
Không phải không? Nhịn không tốt đâu. Đúng. Không thể méo rồi. Giảm cân ai cũng phải nhịn đâu mà. Ăn đúng. Ăn đúng.
Ta ăn
Điều độ.
thôi,
Chứ
nhịn cho nó quen mồm đã, sao ăn đúng sau. Bây giờ cứ ăn là lại xả thôi.
Nó xong bắt đấy. Thì muốn đậu em phải ăn muốn thôi. Cái này nó mỡ thì tôi làm. Chị cho ăn muốn luôn. Mềm mềm.